We can start with UVing. I'll do it for the face. I'll go here on the side, and when I get this crosshair icon, I'll start dragging while holding my left mouse click to the left side to get a new window. And in that window, I'll use UV editor because we'll be making a UV map. I'll have my head selected. You can hide what you don't need. Maybe let's put the braids. Let's hide the main one. And let's maybe put the braids in the fourth one with the hair. And when we have our face now, and you think you're completely done with it, you can actually make an inside of the mouth. But for making that, you probably will need to apply mirror. If you don't want to apply mirror, you can go into a wireframe view. Usually for highlighting the window, I press Ctrl and space on that window. So the window you will choose will be full screened. And now just extrude. As you can see, we still have a shrink wrap on. And just remember that for inside, you won't be able to use shrink wrap because it will still be applying for it and moving it down. So we'll have to apply everything and then make your inside of the mouth like this. I just usually scale it on Z-axis. You can use a smooth vertice. So make sure you're in a vertice mode, smooth vertices, get a bit more reasonable shape, scale up, smooth, scale up. And when your shape is not that bad, you can just extrude more times and get the inside of your mouth. You can, of course, fix the shape manually, which you probably definitely should do. And this way you have the inside in mouth. Now, I don't really want to apply anything. So what I'm going to do is just not have it. Okay, I'll turn on back my modifiers. Can even use 2 to make it look a bit more crisp. And in the edit mode, I'll make sure I select these ones so I can see vertices very well. I will start UVing. So if you select everything and press U and unwrap, we will get something like this. It's because right now we have a mirror modifier, but let's say we have applied our mirror modifier. We'll still be able to use this one, but usually the faces are UV'd like this. So you take it from this part and just go still somewhere here, Control and E, and you can now mark seams. And when you select everything, press U and unwrap, you should get something like this. If we drag this one out till we can see this bubble, we can go here and turn on display stretching, and we'll see if some areas need work. So sometimes we can separate the ears by selecting around them. That's why the loops are very important. Seems like I made a loop not work too well. And sometimes you want to do a loop around the nose, separate it. But in this tutorial, we'll probably keep it this way. But before applying, of course, your everything, I'll always recommend keeping a duplicate for your head. So let's duplicate it. Let's hide the last one. And this will be the one we'll be working on. So I can apply everything. And I'll actually do the avian wrap. Make sure you're in the middle. Control E, mark seam, select everything and unwrap. We'll be using this. Now we'll have to go into a shader editor, and in the material options, while the head is selected, create new material. I can call this head and create some stuff. So in shader options, just same as in the 3D viewer, if you want to add something, you will use Shift and A. Now you can add a texture and image. Let's connect this one. And if we go into the preview, you should see something like this. Let's create a new. You can choose how much quality you want of your texture. I will use 40, 69, 40, 96. You can copy and paste or just write it again. Now I'll write head base color to make it short. And now when I see this one icon here again, I'll drag down because I want one more viewer where we will be to see our image. I'll open this newly created image and save it. So image, save as, and save on your place where you think, where your project is. Save this image. And now we'll be able to go into drawing mode. So let's select the head and go into texture pane. Make sure the texture is selected. Make sure it's turned on in here. And now we can start painting on it. You'll see the live updating here of the image. I press N to get this menu. And in the tool options, I'll change my color a bit later, but now I will choose fill. Try to select the color. You can copy from the concept if you uploaded the image here and upload it. Now, I think the lighting is too strong, so I'll go here and change the lighting to something different. I have some of the ones uploaded, but you can use the base one and lower the strength or set up the scene for yourself. Okay, so I'll go and test a few of these, see which one works the best. Maybe this one looks pretty clean. Let's see in our color management that look would be set to a very high, so we can see the contrast. Sometimes people don't advise you to use very hard, so using the high one. And seems like we have a small error. We will see what to do with it, but it's not that visible yet. Okay, so for painting, it's very, very important to follow your references. So find the image that is very, very well, where we will be able to see everything. I think I'll make my skin a bit more pinkish. Maybe that's a bit too much. Do a few tests, see which color works for you. If you're not sure, you can copy my from the screen, but you will have to take a screenshot of it. And now we can start painting. Usually there's another thing is when you paint, it will go over a bit, but sometimes it doesn't go over enough and doesn't cover everything. So what if that happens and you want to have a bit more of here, just make sure your UVs are not too close to each other because it will start overlapping. What you have to do is extend your window till you can see the options. And in options, there's a thing called bleed. I usually increase the bleed to like 6 or 8 pixels and then fill the mask again. And you can see it fixed that nose error. And in the back, we don't have that weird line which we had just now. So let me go back. If you're looking at very careful, I'm not even sure if it's visible in the recording. You can see the small line. If we zoom in, it's not visible, but for some reason it appears when we zoom out. So yeah, just increase the pixel size, press on it, and now it's much less visible. It really doesn't exist. I don't know why shading shows it. Okay. Everything looking good. And maybe you can play with the rotation of the light. I want to have some of the light falling on the face. Okay, let's start with the painting. Painting will be a bit difficult. Problem comes from Blender not having too well of the layers. And if you really want to use layers, then you will have to do a lot of tweaking. I'm not gonna show it because it becomes very complicated early, or you'll need some add-ons. What I'm going to do is choose the draw option, make sure my texture is selected, make sure this one is here. And by the way, every time you change the image, or you paint, nothing is saved. So if you go and do something else, the save will be cleared and you will lose all the progress. So you can see in here in your editor of image editor, you can see that the image has a small star. That means it's not saved. So what you will have to go is go here and press save, or you will see the shortcut is Alt S. Now, if I go back, I guess it's saved already. You cannot go back to that. But if you cover your cursor or here and press Alt S, it's not gonna save. In here, not gonna save. So you will have to go on this window where your texture is and press Alt S in here. And you can see the wheel start spinning. If I press here, the wheel is not spinning and says that this node is not connection to swap. So you must cover here and press Alt S. Okay. Let's go forward and see what we're going to do with a texture. I usually start with the easiest part, so painting over the eyes. Now we can hide our eyes for now and just fill in the redness. Make sure you have the symmetry selected same as in the sculpting mode and just very carefully draw over. Now 4K it's usually pretty laggy for Blender. Try not to hurry too much. And paint. Sometimes it helps to see in a different views. Like in a solid view, you can see the lines a bit more sharper. Just remember that it's not gonna look as it looks in a solid view. especially not while you have a matte cap selected. If I go into studio, you can see that the sharpness kind of fades away, but you can still see a bit better than in the material shading mode. Now let's unhide our eyes and see if we didn't mess up too much. And I think like we did pretty good. But at this corner, it shouldn't be that dark red. Oh, I hide the head. It should be much softer. So when I paint these parts, I can switch up. Oh, by the way, for selecting the color, you just press S. You just press S, and it's, if you can see in here, when I hold my S, it changed the color from where I covered. And you can create a color palette and add this color here. Let's press the skin. We can add skin color here. And now you'll be easily able to change in between those. I usually select the skin color and very lightly draw those to the eyelid, because I don't want to have it such a harsh for the eye area. We can unhide our eye and try to fix this. We can also use some of the soften brush. It can be quite laggy. Let's hide our eye for now and play with this smooth tool. Make sure you're changing the views, because sometimes in the texturing it blurs some of the areas from the views. As you can see in here, they're making some errors. When you think you're done, you can hover and press Alt S just in case. Let's unhide our eyes. We can check and render preview. We can always lower the value here by just going back to your skin color and lightly drawing over it. We can use the smooth again. We can start painting the lips. Or actually, let's try painting the face itself. So I'll select the face. And while the face is selected, I'll drag out this menu a bit bigger. You can see the colors a bit more. And I'll just lower it down to make it a bit more red. Or we can import our reference and choose the color from the reference. Maybe that's too much. Let's try painting over the eyes. So what I'm trying to do is just literally follow the reference. Sometimes the brushes are too smooth. So if it's too smooth, you'll have to go to a follow options and choose something much harsher. Like this is probably a bit too harsh. This seems more of the style. And of course, play with the color. Now it looks more like a bruise. And paint accordingly to what I see on the reference image. No need to hurry. Just very slowly and carefully. And well thought out changes. You can do some of the blushing on the cheek with the big brush. Let's not forget to add this color in the palette. And we will fix everything a bit later. Okay, when we have something like that, I think we need to work on our forehead. So I'll select this color, and I see that the forehead has a bit more highlight, a bit more light color. So I'll move my closer to a light color. Try painting it. On the forehead, we can go into solid view, see if it changes a lot. It's not that visible. We can try moving it a bit more. Don't really need to be extremely visible, but something close to the reference. Let's use it in the areas where we think we need. I'll actually be highlighting the face a bit later, so we don't need to worry a bit for now. I'll select this color bag and drag it a bit down, a bit darker. And now I'll start painting my lips. Her lips are quite harshly painted. If you have a trouble painting a nice line, what you can do is first, if you're using a tablet, turn this off because it's adding different strokes. And in the stroke options, we can use stabilize stroke again and make a nice lines. Might have painted a bit too much. So I'm going to do is first save this color and then select our skin color back. And with the skin color back, I can draw back. Now sometimes it's hard to see what you're drawing on here. So you can go into your texturing view. And if you go into this view and go into here, you can actually paint even in this view. It can be beneficial to fix some areas like this. Just make sure that you know that's not getting mirrored. Maybe a bit harder to fix in there in some cases, but definitely easier in other ways. We can also in options turn on the wireframe, and usually this makes it pretty visible. And we can follow the mesh. We can press X button, and X button usually switches this. Make sure you're in this view and have two colors. So I'll have one lip and one clearing. This way I can do adjustments faster. It's a lot comes to testing. So it doesn't have to be completely following. You choose what looks better. Definitely too little now. And it's just a game till we get something that looks decent. When we're done with this, we have to do some of the highlights. So when this color is selected, I'll make it a bit lighter and drag it a bit down. And actually I will use lower strength with the tablet pressure. And we can do a bit of drawing on the lips, making those small highlights. Again, very important to follow reference. Sometimes it's much harder, but if you're going to do this way, make sure you're smoothing. Be careful with the smooth brush because it seems like it deletes some of the color away. Can maybe make it a bit lighter. Or just do testing. I think the lighter color works better. And I'll work with the smooth. If it's too strong, you can use some smear, but smear is quite complicated to use. But what you should know is that from the color you start dragging, it will smear that color in. So if I start with the light one and smear, it's gonna smear the light. And if I start from the dark part and smear into the light one, it will smear this way. Let's make it a bit darker. Or again, use the dark color, lower strength, and just drag over these parts. These parts got from the smoothing, they lost their color, so you can draw that color back. And smooth. Let's move this part. Now, when I have something like this, I'll go and use totally black color. You'll be painting the highlights. Highlighter for our eyes. So what I'm going to do is turn off the strength and try copy the reference. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to model the eyelashes a bit, but this one definitely going to help. Make sure you're not covering the eyelid too much on the bottom one. And now I can use soften. Again, it can get laggy because we're using a 4K image. And I'll smoothen a bit up here. It seems like we're getting some lag issues, so if you're afraid to use your project, don't forget to Alt S on the image area. I think at this time we can use the face color. And start fixing these parts. Can turn off the stabilized stroke because we don't really need it for now. Be careful not to draw on the lips too much. And just try merging in the colors. Just very lightly drawing over it. We can use some smooth again. Remember that it's laggy. Don't really understand why this move is so laggy, but I really don't like that it's so laggy. Because it is pretty useful part of tool. Can make it bigger. And now maybe let's go back to the color. Let's actually use lowest strength like 0.3 and just not use this part. Can use a bit of stabilized stroke. Maybe that's even too strong. We can lower it. It has to be barely visible. 0.05 maybe. Even that is a bit strong. Make sure our brush is again pretty harsh. This one is pretty harsh. And draw the lines like in a show. Can you use the skin color again just to make some differences sharper, or draw over the color to make it a bit lighter? Our eyebrows seems a bit of the mess right now, so I'll try using smooth brush. But if you're having a trouble like me, so maybe let's go and clean it up with simple brush. We'll have to do quite a few different strokes. We can increase the strength, of course. We'll be able to clear it quite quick. And we can go back to that redness. Just lower the strength. Let's draw it back. I think what I did, I just draw this too big. So I'll use the light brush to cut it off. Seems like some of the parts of the eyelids have some of these highlights. So I'll try to do the same with a totally black color. Just a few iterations. Same goes for the top. And now I'll increase the strength, make my brush small, and try filling in some of these small dots on the face. I'll definitely don't forget to turn off the symmetry. And don't be afraid to move your mouse, because none of the dots are actually equal and none of them are actually spheres. sphere shape, like circle shape. So all of them have some difference. So when I put my dot in and move my mouse around, I think our lips could get a bit more work. So I'll use the skin color, clear some, or actually let's use the darkest one to delete the things we added before. Let's not forget to turn back the symmetry on. And we can be a bit more careful this time. So everything is about not being in too much of the hurry. Low strength. Maybe even a small brush. I'll actually turn off this. Make something like that, lines. I see that the top has a bit different, clear. Again, seems a bit strong. I'll try to smooth. And I will draw a bit dark color again on top. Just because I think what we added is too strong. Maybe that's a bit too harsh. It's actually not that bad for now. Let's Alt S our image. And it looks pretty good for now. Let's unhide our hair just to see how it looks like. We can go in, select our hair. Let me turn this back on. Won't need wireframe. And let's create a new material. I see that I have one, but let's just create a new one. Let's call it hair. And can make this a bit bigger so we can see what's happening over here. Let's choose a color. A bit more teal, a bit more green. So it has some blue parts and some green parts. Just play with the color. Let's hide our head and eyes for now. And when you have everything like this, if you select your hair strength and press A and go in your material options, there's a little arrow and you can paste material and you can copy material to select it and everything will have the same material. So now you won't have to go through every single part and turn it on. Let's unhide our head. And I think it looks pretty good. We'll do a test render a bit later, so now I'm not worried about that. We can go back on our face to texture pane and we can start drawing eyebrows. Now, eyebrows will be very difficult to draw. Let's of course make our screen bigger. Let's choose the darkest color. Actually, let's make it a bit brown. So drag it up and drag this one around here. Maybe closer to orange and you can see the dark brown color appears. I'll not make it completely black. Let's check my symmetry and try positioning the eyebrows. I'll definitely use stabilized stroke. and just try to copy what I see on my reference. I'll make my strength maximum, turn off the tablet sensitivity, and try to draw something that resembles it. And when I have something like this, I'll turn my skin color back on and chip out the shapes that I don't need. Let's chip up this. We can always turn the dark color back. And do a few of iterations. Can cut in. Don't be afraid to move out from dark color and brown color. And of course, very small, smooth. We don't get these sharp lines. Looking a bit better. Now we made a small changes on our forehead. Oh, I want to go back to that lighter color. And just very, very smoothly, no need full strength, no need stabilize stroke. Smoothly draw in. I'll actually choose our skin color and make it quite darker. And in the reference image, it seems like the nose bridge is highlighted. So I'll try very, very carefully to do that. Okay, when we're done, I'm gonna go close and try using the smooth brush again. If it lags, I'm going to release and go back. It lags, I release. Very patient with this. That's the important part. We can, of course, go back with our skin color. Let's make it non-tablet strength and just very carefully draw over. We can use some smear to smear around. Seems like the smear brush is as well a bit laggy. Try to keep patient. Now I'll actually fix this part too. The smear. So the end result will look as much as good as you put the patience and time into it. If you're in extreme hurry, then it's definitely not going to end up looking too good. Or you have to be a pro. A lighter color to clean this up. Maybe lower strength. Just smear this one down. As you can see, I'm very, very carefully with every single inch on part. We can do a bit of work on the eyebrows too. Maybe I'll actually clean them up a bit. So I'll press S to select forehead color to clean up this part a bit. Maybe let's turn up our full strength. Oh, that's too much. I'll use soften for the edge. I don't want it to be that rough. And I think I can draw in a bit up here. Actually, with the S, select this color. Make sure you're not destroying too much of the shape. Smooth brush again. And I will, with S, select something like this darker color. Oh, actually, let's go back to the draw brush. Select something like this. And with this type of brush, I will do a small lines. Maybe try to draw over each line. Just to add some sort of this type of eyebrow detail, like in my reference. It's not very visible, but it does add a small part. And I'll actually clean up a bit more. I'll use quite a small brush. And I'll just make the lines rougher. Don't forget to Alt S. My bottom lip is a bit bad. So I'll do a few tests with the shape. Sometimes it's wrong how it's closing. So you'll have to play with the shape. Let's save our image which we drawn on. Don't forget that. And we can start drawing on our eyes a bit. I'll use a subdivision just to make them look smoother. And use the shade smooth with my right mouse click. Let's add a new material. Let's call it ice. Let's make it not rough. I'm going to add a bit more specularity. And I'll actually take it in the edit mode and select this part, select this loop. And we'll add one more actually loop in here. Select everything back and I will scale it on E-axis on 0. So it will become flat. And I will merge it a bit down. It looks something like this. And we'll need to do, of course, UV map as well. So it doesn't matter what texture is selected at top. What we have to do is just go edit mode. You can go wireframe so I can see what's happening. Select somewhere in the middle. Control E to get this menu. Mark seam. Select everything with the A and U for unwrap menu and unwrap. We'll get 2 balls. Many people like to make a main one big and a back one smaller. but should probably apply mirror now. Let's UV unwrap again. I think it's not really a problem because we're not going to, I hopefully use this in-game engine, but if you're going to use an in-game engine, then the front ones, you have to make it a bit bigger than the back ones, but it's not must do. Oh, let's create a texture. Shift A again for creating menu, texture, image, and let's plug that baby to base color. New. Let's call it eyes color. And let's make it 4K, why not? Maybe let's teach you that not everything should be 4K, so let's make it this one 2K. 2048 by 2048. Okay. Let's apply it. Let's turn our eye colors in here. And let's go back to texture view. Let's save whole file. Texture paint. Let's use the fill. Not actually, eyes are not completely white. And if you don't know how to go completely white by selecting this, you're probably gonna mess it up a bit. You can go in here, RGB, and drag everything to 1. You'll have complete white. You can change a bit of this. Let's maybe make them a bit more bluish. And let's drag this one a bit down and fill in. Looking pretty good. I'll go back into draw options. Press S to get this color. I'll save the color here. And I'll now select completely black one. Go into the front view and start painting my, so I can see how big my iris will be. So I'll try to get my brush size similar. Let's not forget to turn off the stabilize stroke and use the mirror. I'll just click to get something like this. It can be annoying if it goes over the vertices. So what you can do is turn on your vertices back. But it seems like it's completely fine. Yeah. And now we'll select a darker blue color. So be careful. I think Jinx has her a bit more tealish color, a bit more greenish. So I will move my mouse closer to the middle part of the top. Make my ring smaller. And start clicking. I cannot see too well, so I'll hide this part. So we get this base. We can save this color too. And I'll select quite light teal color and quite bright. I'll lower the strength. Oh, I'll lower the strength. Change the brush size. And draw like a smiley face. Can do a bit vertical moves like this. Can clear the bottom. And we can save this color too. Now make it completely dark. Put in the iris. And we can make it completely white to add some of the highlights. Let's turn on full strength. These parts can be modeled in, not draw in, and I actually think I'm gonna do that. So let's go back. It's gonna make it even better that way. Actually see that there's a bit more color variation, a bit more lightish color. So I'll do that. Maybe it can lower the part of this to make it a bit smoother, so we don't get these hard shapes now. And just draw them in. Sometimes people like to draw the shadow over the eye. So what I'm gonna do is choose completely black, but on a low strength. I'll hide the head just for a moment. And on the top, do the smile option like we did at the bottom of the iris. And just make the top part a bit darker. I think our iris are a bit small. So what we can do is go edit mode and play with the size. Just be careful, because it changes the eye shape. And as you can see, the eyes look pretty dead. But what we will do is create a new object. Make sure it's in the middle. So Alt G, Alt R, Alt S. I'll press Tab. Delete the object, because we'll be doing a bit of retopology. Snap tool, face option. And now I'll select Control and right mouse click to put in the vertice. And let's draw something. We can go back to solid view. Actually, it's pretty hard to see in the solid view. So let's make shape. Let's go back here. Let's see how it looks. Let's of course fill it in with the faces. And we'll create a material for this object. And we can call it eye light, because this will actually be a light. And we'll change the surface to emission. Let's go back into the render view. And you can see it's shining. Now we can actually even change how bright it's shining. I don't recommend adding too much. And while this is on, we'll be able to use bloom. And it will look pretty cool. Of course, it's still on a working. So let's go ahead and add more. We can even duplicate this. Right. So I'll go into the front view, press Shift D to duplicate it. Can turn on snapping just for a moment. Make this one like this. And let's do one at the bottom. I'll actually twist it like this, so it's facing top and bottom. I'll press S and scale it only on Z axis to make it longer. Maybe scale it down to make it smaller. And we can fit it up here. Now I'll select everything of these ones. I'll extrude it and make it just a bit bigger. Not much, and I'll use subdivision surface on them. Now let's go into edit mode and Shift D. Let's move them in the right area on another eye. And now we have a pretty nice looking Jinx. Okay, now what's left is just to make this a cool looking render. So what I'm going to do is go into... Oh, don't forget to save your eyes. Don't forget to save your eyes. Save as. Nice color, save. And now, for now, we won't need this. So I will close the windows. If you don't know how, what you do is go to the corner, and when you get this one, press it and hold it and drag top, and you can see the arrow showing that it will merge. You can do which one where it's gonna merge. You can do down. And same goes here. I hold it. Don't drag it left, because you drag it left, it's gonna just make more. So just make sure you're dragging right. And here. Okay. When we're done with this, let's go render mode. Let's see how it looks like. Pretty empty for now. I'll create Shift A for creation, light, and I always like to use area light. Our head seems a bit big, but we're not using any things on materials that the scale would be a big issue, so I don't think we have to play with the scale right now. Let's just play with the power of our lamp. I always recommend using this lamp, make it quite bigger. Seems like our head is quite huge. Let's play with the strength. I forgot to paint one more thing, so we'll need to get our image editor back. Go into the face. We will need a shader too. Select our image here. Select our base color here. Go texture paint. And inside the nostrils, we have to paint completely black. Let's get our mirror on. And let's paint. Let's go far and see how it looks like. Okay, it's pretty good. Alt S to save the image. We can go back into rendering option. I will go into this option and actually turn off the background completely off. Drag it to completely dark. I'll duplicate this lamp and make one behind her. I want to position it from one of the sides. Maybe this side. Make a lamp a bit smaller. Like this. But definitely increase a lot of strength. So I'll write like 2000. Even this will not be enough. I'll write 5000. Can even go extreme and go 10,000. Maybe it's going to burn out some color, so I'll go back to 4000. And we should definitely not make it completely white. Let's add some color. Can use some from the show, like green. Make this one a bit further away. The further away you'll drag it, the more strength you will have, but the smoother the life itself will be. Let's try 4000 on this light. That's definitely too much. Let's go 2000. Maybe that is too much. Let's try 1500. So as you can see, a lot of testing. I'll use the same light, duplicate it, drag another side, and I will position it that it would light this area of the face where it's hidden, and make this a light blue, and play with the strength. Now I just want it to be extremely little visible, so maybe 200. Let's make this small so we can see the light. I'll hide the light and see what it does. It adds a bit of shininess. Actually make this lamp a bit bigger, so 15 meters. Maybe even 20 meters. Let's hide the sides. Let's see how it looks. It's looking pretty good. I'll definitely go to options, turn everything in here. Seems like the color management changed again, so let's go into high contrast. When we change into high contrast, we're losing some of the details in here. So what I'm going to do is select the slime and duplicate it and drag it in this side. I'll actually drag it a bit further away so the strength becomes smoother. Let's hide everything again. And congratulations, you just did an amazing looking model. I'll share this model, of course, in the Gumroad for free. Thank you everyone who watched the tutorial, and I hope you liked it. And see you next time.